welcome back to the SMITE Pro League in Phase 2, Week 8, Day 2, and now Set 2. That's a lot of numbers I threw at you, but don't worry, you don't have to worry about too many numbers, especially if you get yourself an Alienware PC, because they're the top of the line, the best in the market, and they've got the maximum number that you can throw in just about every one of those PCs. So make sure you go over to SMITEGame.com/Alienware, use code AWSMITE09 to get yourself a discount and drop some of the numbers that you would have to use in order to spend to get yourself one of those PCs or one of the laptops that we use out here. The PCs are used by not only our pros here in the studio, but also at their home and for our production crew in the backline to make sure that we can provide a top-of-the-line broadcast for you and top-of-the-line play for our players on field. Thanks so much to Alienware for coming back in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. My name is Jim Tucker. I've got Gormizer joining me on the desk as we go into our final set of the day. I said it was Set 2. It was previously Set 2. Now we're moving in to set number 3, the Atlantis Leviathans and the Valhalla Valkyries to round out our Saturday. And then we've got one more day of play after that before Gore. We're done with Phase 2 of this season.
Yeah, no, it's actually wild to think about how quick, like, it's that weird thing where, like, a few weeks ago it was like, yes, we're still in Phase 2. Now it feels like it went by really, really fast, and that, man, I mean, things got really interesting in there, too. Like, teams that were winning ridiculously were taken down by teams that we didn't think were going to be able to do so. Teams that weren't getting any wins at all finally found some of theirs. So it's definitely made things interesting here towards the end of the week. In the phase.
Yeah, I mean, bottom teams getting some wins on some upset teams out there. I mean, we had the Valkyries find themselves a win over the Warriors, who were like a number 3 team. The Scarabs found a win on the Kings, who are number 1. And all that culminates to our final 4 sets of the weekend, our final 4 sets of the phase. Our last one today, the Valkyries and the Leviathans, and then tomorrow we open up with the Jade Dragons once again, this time against the Tartarus Titans, Oni Warriors, and the Camelot Kings, and then the Solar Scarabs and the Atlantis Leviathans to round out the final days of play. So the Atlantis Leviathans will be our closer, not just today, but also tomorrow. So be sure to be looking forward to all of our remaining matches. And then, once we're done with this, we take, what is it, like a 2-day break?
Yep.
And then we go straight into Masters. We go straight into the Summer Masters immediately after that. And taking a look at the standings with their win today over the Olympus Bolts and with the loss earlier on in the week by the Bolts, the Camelot Kings have guaranteed themselves that number 1 seed. The Bolts right behind. And if I'm not mistaken, even with a win from the Tartarus Titans tomorrow over the Dragons, I think that the Olympus Bolts still hold on to that number 2 seed. If not, worst case, they would then drop down into that 3rd one. The Jade Dragons, though, have made maybe the most impressive turnaround, coming from 6th to 4th with just the games that they've been able to win this weekend.
Based on the interview earlier, they're not done. Like, they want to keep going from there and moving up. Yeah, I think it's really impressive. I also think that these standings might not be, towards the end of the phase, it's going to be a very good representation of, like, the whole phase, which that's the point, so that makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it will be very indicative of where these teams actually stand going into Masters, right? And, things that affected you in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 aren't affecting you as much now in week number 8, things like that. And so I think going into Masters, there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup, and I'm not sure that they're going to be quite as solidified as they feel.
And one of the teams that did finally manage to get that first set win of the phase for themselves up against the Oni Warriors was the Valhalla Valkyries, the first team that we'll kind of talk about of this matchup. Really an evolution of this team across the culmination of now 2 phases of play. They got their win. They got a set win in phase number 1 up against the Leviathans. Whether or not you want to consider that one the full strength of the Levi's at that time or the full strength of the Valks, it's still been that upwards grind for this team, and you can really start to see that in every single set, especially after their set against the Warriors. The Valkyries are still continuing to put up that fight. They're still fighting those leads, and I want to say a lot of that coming from this dual lane being able to step up once we got Wowy and Gamma here in the studio. It really was an evolution for this team.
Yeah, I think that was a huge jump up for them. I think that this team as a whole has done nothing but improve, right? And admittedly, like they that's what they knew they had to do when they came into the league. You ask them, and we did at the beginning of phase 1, where they were like, hey, what are your expectations? They were like, oh, we're probably going to lose for a little while, but then, like, we're going to learn, the farm game in the SBL is a little different, drafting's a little different in the SBL, things like that, especially from last year. Last year, Winter Dogs, Jarcorrr and Anubis game 2s all the time, things like that. They were very fun and very entertaining to watch for us in the SEC, but definitely took, I think, a little while to really kind of climb up into where they are, and now where I think they are is handedly better than where they were when they started this, and I expect that improvement's going to keep going. It's also worth mentioning that in this matchup, it was at the end of phase 1. They beat the Leviathans then, so now end of phase 2, maybe they can recreate the magic.
We'll see if the Valkyries can find themselves a nice little win over the Leviathans. Before we even get into the game, we want to go ahead and talk with somebody who we haven't gotten to see in the studio for some time, the coach of the Valhalla Valkyries, Shark, standing by for our pregame interview. Good to have you back in the studio. It's been a while since we got a chance to see you here. I think it was the last Masters,
February.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, long time.
So now that you've gotten a chance to kind of regroup with the team, how does it feel being back over here with your team reunite under the roof?
It's hard to say yet because I think LAN will be a much better environment for that. Obviously, it's great to see everyone in person, but next Wednesday is kind of like the goal. And like day-to-day challenges and draft, knowing who you're versing the next day, things like that. That's when it really becomes a thing. Like, if I was at home, I knew that we were versing Leviathans anyway. Prep would have been the same. But when LAN starts, that's when it's going to be a big change, I think.
Yeah, very true. Now, tell me with a team like this, with a team that likes to do some of these more kind of outlandish style of picks, especially with a player like BennyQ.
Yeah.
What is it like kind of coaching for the team behind the scenes for these guys?
I'm very, well, geez, that's a good question. I think when I started, it's just progressively gotten like more, I don't know, it sounds bad, but more out of my hands. Like more trust within each other and kind of confidence with each other. But that being said, recently we've become a bit more critical in pulling back what each other want to do because we kind of know how we want to play now. We just really want to focus on that rather than figuring out what to do like phase 1, start of phase 2. We kind of know what we want to do now.
Yeah, very fair. Now, we got to talk a little bit to the players after they got their win previously up against the Warriors. Everybody's feeling really good on the player side. For you as a coach, I mean, how does it feel getting a win up against, what was at that time, I believe, a number 3 seeded team?
Yeah. Well, we didn't even know they were 3rd seed, to be honest. We won and we're like, oh, wow, they were 3rd. Like, cool, a win's a win at this point. Like, we were really, really down bad at that point. Losing 17 games in a row is not good for anyone. But I think if we didn't win that set, it would have been pretty rough coming in today and even the next day against the Titans. But winning the only set and then thinking we could have won that game 1 against Titans, like, we're actually good. So it's a big confidence boost for everyone across the board.
Yeah, I remember seeing the tweet that you put out. Said, nobody can beat the Valkyries. Was it like 17 games in a row? We'll finally get that one out there. Well, good luck to you and your team in this set. I'll let you get back with the way you guys can get strategized, and good luck at the set.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Good to have Sharks back in the studio to help out his team and get ready because, as he mentioned, Masters is right around the corner, and that's really where the coach and that's really where the team is probably kind of dialing a little bit more so in. Maybe not as much this last game, though, still definitely wanting to try and find a win up against the Atlantis Leviathans, who have been a team who have been a little up and down this phase. They've had their moments where they beat the 2 teams that were both undefeated. They beat the Bolts, they beat the Camelot Kings, and we thought, man, the Leviathans are back. This is the World Championship team, baby. We are ready to see them go, full cylinders, gun and ready to go win this race. And then they kind of hit a little bit of a wall for a while, and they've kind of just been in this up and down, this kind of back and forth roller coaster.
And honestly, it's been interesting because I think the dynamic shifts. Some of them, if you want to talk about like when mid-season came through, there were definitely issues, I think, making sure that things, I want to say, like, maintained there, right, with changes to the meta, things like that. I think they were actually leading the way after mid-season. It was actually, what was it, around 9-5, the beginning of the phase, where things were a little more of a rough stumble for them. They did well against the Bolts last week and looked pretty solid then. And I think this is a one that's going to be a fun matchup. I actually like that we're watching Panitom highlights here because when we looked at them versus the Valks, I wanted to look it up, and win-loss isn't great when you look back at it. Like SWC placements these teams played against each other went towards the Leviathans. When they played earlier in Phase 1, that was a big win overall for the Valkyries, but still one game being picked up on the side of the Levis, and then since then it's been a 2-0, and then I guess yet to be seen. What blew my mind is so this is a way throwback for when the Leviathans, before they joined the SPL, when they were in the SNL, apparently played up at least against a team with Kyrmi in it, because I was looking at Panitom versus Kyrmi, and Panitom had 2 wins from way, like 4 years ago, where they had that. So again, maybe something that has been favored one side more than the other. But it's a team that, like you said, has been a little tumultuous. It's been a little problematic, a little bumpy in the road for them. So now the question really is going to be if they can tighten things up for themselves, or if this is a team that is going to be maybe exposed to failure here, and the Valkyries will be able to capitalize on it.
We'll see who can come out on top in game number 1, or at least we'll get to see how the draft pans out for game number 1 as we jump into the picks and bans right away. And the Morrigan, not really the first ban that I would normally think of with the Valks, but when I do think back to the win that they got against the Oni Warriors, that game 2, it was the Morrigan Ratatosker as a double combo that BennyQ and Kyrmi did run to find a pretty convincing win over the Warriors in that one. So maybe that could be a little bit of a reason why the Leviathans are going with that. Cupid and Umoja, the next 2 bans. No surprise, especially now with how popular Cupid's been getting.
Yeah, honestly, it's maybe the surprise is that it took so long for him to start getting banned out as highly up. I think that that's I would even argue maybe must ban specifically against the Valks. I think that Wowie's Cupid has brought that duo lane. You know, we were talking about them playing at a higher level. I think a lot of that had to do with Cupid jumping in here. I think Wowie's very solid at Cupid, and that showcased. And that gave a level of comfort to the Valks on the left-hand side of the map that otherwise was a lot more difficult to attain for them. Here, I think that we've started to see that it's kind of leaking through towards other gods, but the Cupid was strong enough that Wowy was going to look good no matter what, and it was going to dominate. And that gave them, I think, a really strong play against the Warriors. And I think that the Titans did a good job trying to control that as well.
A roundup of the bans, Morgan, Cupid, and Nemesis for the Atlantis Leviathans. Valkyries banned away Yamoja, Iset, and Daji, who has just been an absolute menace in the jungle.
Jousting list
We haven't
beckons
seen
for
a
a
whole
champion.
lot of because of how much she has been banned. One guy we've been seeing a lot of just this weekend because he has been available, Lancelot, picked up for the Leviathans, a 50% win rate right on the dot, had one win for the Titans whenever they played it, one win just a moment ago with the Camelot Kings, and a couple of losses sprinkled throughout the remainder of there. So a little bit of a back and forth, at least with this guy, but that does leave open Chernobog, who I'm surprised has fallen so far to the wayside compared to what he was even just a couple of weeks ago, Gore.
Yeah, it's honestly been, I want to say like a master class in how quick things can change, right? Like most picked god of the phase, or most, wow, actually second most banned god of the phase next to Yamoja. So maybe not too surprising. But like super picked if he was, let through. I think one of the only people that we've seen like really rival a Yamoja in terms of like pick ban percentage, which has been very impressive. And then the last couple of weeks, like you said, having him fall off. I mean, last week as well, he wasn't super high up on anybody's threshold. Across the games, good number of picks, good number of bans, but was already starting to wane in terms of popularity. And now I think that he's in a spot where, is he bad? God, no. He's actually still good. A lot of the stuff that he does, guess what? Still exactly what you need out of him. I think that what we've just seen, though, is the rise of some of these other hunters. And, you're getting a lot of Cupids. And so when you get a lot of Cupids, suddenly you're getting a lot of Artemises. When you get a lot of Artemises, sometimes you get a lot of Xbalanques, who is already kind of leaking his way into the meta, forming like a circle. And then when you start seeing a lot of them, sometimes somebody else tries to come usurp eventually. I feel like this is just going to be a solid pick because this one is fine, right? Like, it's not Cupid. It doesn't have something where it's like, hey, if I get this matchup, I'll do pretty well in 1v1s or, like an Artemis or Xbalanque, things like that. This one feels like it's just good for what it does. I've got global presence. I've got good damage. I can box you, or I can just get the hell out if I need to. Like, I've got everything in terms of safety, and I think that's great for the Valks because it gives them a numbers advantage, and it gives them a good disengage.
Well, along with Lancelot, the Atlantis Leviathans will lock in Cabrakan and Khepri to round out the front line of this team, at the very least. Whether this Cabrakan actually goes towards mid, which is actually where we've been seeing it more often with the Leviathan. Sheento's been piloting that pick a couple of times recently. So maybe still a little bit open as to where if this Lancelot goes into solo, maybe over towards Jarcorrr, we saw with Variety in the King set. So some flexibility at least into that lane, or if they goes to the jungle for Panitom. Then the Valkyries pick up Xing and Osiris. Xing has also been one of those guys who's been rising up as of recent. In fact, a couple of weeks had that 100% pick ban rate to himself. And it's kind of back and forth between a couple of these teams here, Gormizer. And now that we have Robin, that one might be the most surprising ban as of recent because Robin has not been really the hot topic for a few weeks.
No, he came in real hard, then got nerfed slightly, then fell off the face of the earth because a lot of what was happening was, hey, here's a god where you can go in and essentially just ignore everything that happens to you because your damage mitigation was through the roof. You take a little bit of that away, and it's like, hey, here's a god where you have to think about your engagements again, and suddenly, well, does he work too great in solo lane? Does he work too great in the jungle? Maybe not as much as what we're seeing in some of the other places. I think, your Dajis have been very important. Nemesis has been very important over the last couple of weeks. And so it makes sense that, well, with Robin falling to the wayside, not too surprising that he goes there. I also think, in matchups, depending on where the Valks want to go, but, up against, a Xing, up against, an Osiris, when you can just kind of ignore some of that damage and ignore some of that CC, all of a sudden that's a little frustrating. So I like that they've gone that route just to make sure that it's someone whoever's in the jungle, whether it's Lancelot or if it's going to be somebody else, they're going to be able to control it a little easier.
with the Raven, it's Heimdall as the final ban with the Valkyries, Cthulhu and Chang'e from the Leviathans. A little bit of a focus towards Aquarius, because we did see Aquarius had a pretty strong performance on the Chang'e in that same exact set that the Valkyries did find a win. Soul is going to be the lock-in, and we've been seeing a little bit more Soul as of recent, though not much success from the Soul. Only 1 out of the 5 games that she has been picked up in our recent weeks has she been able to find a win.
Yeah.
But it feels like a lot of it has just come off the new glyphs that have come through between the Bancroft's Claw, or more specifically, at least the Nimble Bancroft that has been picked up by this god. Really seems to have kind of brought her, maybe not necessarily to the forefront of the magical hunters, but has made it to where it's no longer just Oleron anymore.
Yeah, right. She's finally back in the conversation. Freya, unfortunately, Kronos, yeah, just scrub them under the rug right now because they do not matter. But Soul is an interesting one because, like you said, her win rate hasn't been great. But I don't know if I blame her for any of the losses. I don't think like it's been like, if you had anything that wasn't a Soul there, you would have won this game. Like most of the time, it's like, yeah, I mean, she, good enough damage, but yeah, well, you just didn't have anything around you, right? It's everybody else. And so I think that this is one that, for the Valks, it might fall into the same area. I think Soul has a lot of good damage. With this pathing, I always prefer, and this is personal taste, but I like Chernobog in the side lanes because I think if you're going to use his ult, it gets a lot of distance. So if you're either in solo, but more than likely in my eyes here, if you're in duo for Wowy, I like that, which means it's probably going to be BennyQ running the Soul. And that typically picks up a different build from in the past from what we've seen than out of the kind of carry role where, yes, you're still going for like the Bancroft's, but like you said, maybe it's a Bancroft's Claw, not the Nimble. Maybe you're not going for the rings. Maybe you're going into a Typhon's Fang. You're building more mage style, and your autos are kind of there and after the fact, to kind of help enhance your kit.
Well, with King Arthur and Xbalanque as the final 2 for the Leviathans, Xbalanque over for Zapman, King Arthur for Jarcorrr. That does solidify that this Lancelot is going to be going into the jungle for Panitom, and Cabrakan for Sheento once again. Had 2 games that he played on it before, and 2 games that he was able to find a win. And he was utilizing that new Bancroft's Claw. I believe it was a Fighter's Mask start into Bancroft's Talon, Bancroft's Claw, and then Typhon's Fang to kind of start that build out. So a ton of damage and a ton of lifesteal for this Cabrakan in the mid. If you're matching up against something like that, would you rather have the Soul in the mid lane to try and be able to deal with the Cabrakan, or would you rather have Chernobog over there?
Oh man, that is a difficult ask because I don't really want either. Honestly, and it's not even like a bad matchup or anything like that. I'm just looking at Cabrakan and I'm thinking, like you said, a lot of damage. Immediately, I hear a lot of damage up front, and I'm like, cool, Soul, give me Disapparate. That's cool. I can get out of CC and with stuff like that as well. That feels like generalization, probably going to feel pretty solid. But then I think of those walls. And that's where you lose me on both, because it's like, okay, cool. Most of the time, you're going to be fine. But once that ult comes up, and if they're willing to drop it, and they have that, plus other CC, like the Khepri pull in, a King Arthur, a Lancelot chasing you down, like, it feels like there's going to be a lot of moments where you're going to get caught out. And I think that Soul, again, Disapparate probably gives you the best bet against it. So I like that matchup into it. But once those walls start coming through, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, cool. Well, you use your Disapparate, you dodge some of our damage. Now we're just going to lock you down. Good luck running away. You're not going to be able to get out of here. Still probably end up dying. But Soul also has a lot of good like lifesteal, things like that. The Bancroft's Talent build, again, we've seen a lot of Typhon's Fang usually coupled with that. And with that plus her 1, it's a lot of self-sustain for a Soul. So theoretically that, then add in like Artio healing later. Should be good late game. Lane phase, might need to, pump the brakes, play it back a little bit.
Now, looking at both these drafts, they've got a lot of team fight within them. I mean, you got Cabrakan, King Arthur, who are going to be able to do a lot of single-target picks during these fights, maybe kind of catch out one person at a time, where you've got a lot of AoE on the side of the Valkyries. So when it comes to the team fight, and when it comes to game number 1, who's going to come out on top? Will it be the Leviathans? Will it be the Valkyries? Let's jump right in and find out.
Been a long day of Smite up to this point, but the Leviathans and the Valkyries are third and final set of the day, as Dolson, Trelly, and Doug will bring you through the action. Now, Trelly, if you were telling me the Leviathans and the Valkyries were playing and there was a Cabrakan mid, I'd be certain that it was the Valhalla Valkyries that would be playing at BennyQ doing something crazy again.
Oh, yeah.
But it's actually Sheento. He's gone Fighter's Mask to start. It's something we've seen the Leviathans win on in the past. They're giving it another run here against the Valks.
Yeah, Sheento really did say he was just going to stick with playing, things like the Cabrakan mid until mages got better. I haven't seen a decline in the mage tab being played up in the SPL, but
Right.
It seems like Sheento just wants to get blank, wants to get active in this lane. He's up against BennyQ on the Chernobog, so there will be some ways to catch that dash and try and make his life miserable, but I imagine just full damage, trying to one-shot, that is what Cabrakan does best with the Rangda's build. I mean, you're trying to get the stacks of weakness away. You don't want to be taking more damage. At the moment, he will be, but as you upgrade that item, the more power you build, the less damage you're taking, and that'll feel pretty good for Sheento at about 20 minutes or so.
I have to imagine, Trelly, if you zoom out and look at both of these teams, maybe similar mindsets as far as what you're hoping out of the last couple of sets of the phase. The last set of the phase for the Valks prior to Masters. One more set for the Leviathans tomorrow against the Oni Warriors. I feel like consistency has got to be the name of the game for both of these teams. We've seen some great from the Leviathans, some bad. Been looking good recently, though, and so keeping that trend going. Feels like the Valks, they've gotten their win. They've started to at least look more competitive in their sets. And so maintaining that type of pace, very important. Even in a loss for the Valkyries, remaining competitive in their set because anything can happen. Avoiding first blood would also be nice, but Sheento is here out of mid. Initial damage onto Yark, but returned onto Kyrmi in spades. Knocked to the side, and one more auto attack will do it, but Kyrmi running the wrong way.
Yeah.
Although, he's speedy enough. Panitom's got speed buff. I'm not sure if he's
got to keep slow and throw the sickles.
He's gonna get the slow. Is he gonna get in range of a tower before he's taking damage? The little backpedal there maybe dooms Kyrmi. Slow on the Panitom again.
He's even giving him the
No
toss
chance he's gonna live. Wow, he does. Kyrmi makes that alive. Luckily for Panitom, he's back on his own side of the jungle anyway, but not much to farm there. And so Kyrmi, he won't die, he'll live.
Yeah, I thought if Sheento's stun connected, that would have been the end, but it just started off with, you know what, I'll go for the tremors, trap him in here for as long as possible. And then Kyrmi knew, as long as he consistently was hitting those sickles and had the speed buff, he was going to be able to zoom on out of there, threw some taunts on the way out. Unfortunately for Kyrmi, you know, it was just a big waste of time, essentially. I mean, living is great. You love not giving up that first, but Ronngyu, however, could be in some trouble.
Oh my, the duo lane of the Valkyries will be the side to get first blood. And think about where the Valkyries have struggled, Trelly. It's been a lot of duo lane pressure. It's felt like Gamma and Wowy haven't been great at getting their feet underneath them. And they'll do you one better here. The Valks grab first blood, and it's on to their soul. So they're going to speed up that scaling a bit.
Yeah, as their one win up against the Warriors, that was from the duo lane pressure. I really think that Wowy and Gamma showed up in a massive way. And up against Zapman and Ronngyu, they're not going to pull their punches. They're going to get that first blood for Wowy. The Mannequin Scepter certainly helping out. That's going to help your early damage as well as buff clear. And getting a first blood on your Soul is massive because Soul is one of those characters that has a ton of burst damage, has a bit of survivability, but you need to hit level 5 to really have access to all of it. Your CC immunity in the ult helps out a ton. Getting Wowy to that point, I mean, you're up against a Khepri and a Xbalanque, so you're not under too much threat as is. Once Panitom starts rotating in, you would love to have that sort of CC immunity and just be able to avoid the full brunt of that gank. So now Wowy's going to be sitting just fine in that lane.
Great start. 1.2k gold ahead are the Valkyries. So whether it's farm that's being taken away and a little additional gold with that first blood. And again, to my prior point, not something that over the last couple of sets we're unused to. The Valkyries beat the Warriors, and then even in a 2-0 loss in their last set, the Valkyries had leads in each of those games. And so smoothing over the early game, you know, the philosophy is it's the only part of the game you play every single time, no matter what. So having at least a good to neutral early game, important for every team in the league. So smoothing that out, good luck for the Valkyries. Zapman a bit behind. Level 5 hit for both of the duo laners of the Valhalla Valkyries. Add some kill pressure, not only for Gamma, but for Wowy as well. No beads on Ronngyu. It looks like they won't push that advantage just yet.
Yeah, now that we're in a situation like this where you have Ronngyu, who's going to be getting access to Scarab's Blessing soon, that duo lane is a bit behind being the Leviathans. I do want to see Kyrmi look to get active in that duo lane, at least try and push that lead and or push the lead elsewhere, right? Because Panitom has one of two options. Does he go and help the crippled duo lane who has already found one death and, you know, Zap's going to need to find farm? In my eyes, no. Zap's used to playing at a bit of a deficit. He's not going to feed, you know, he's not going to give up too much farm. He knows how to keep his itemization online despite being at a bit of a deficit. So that means Panitom needs to look elsewhere. So wherever this Lancelot isn't, I expect to see Kyrmi trying to force something. You got Mannequin Scepter, Osiris. You can get active in the early. Your 1v1 potential is insane right now. Try and force that issue.
Yeah, we'll see if Kyrmi is able to find that pressure. Other options are Jarcorrr, Sheento potentially. He's got Blink over in mid. But Panitom looking for Wowy. Wowy's got beads and ultimate and disapparate. Only has to use 2 of the 3. Beads remain online. And for a bit of Panitom's time and maybe a purple buff, I think Panitom will call it worth it.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be worth it there. Could have been a possible ult attempt underneath, but it looks like BennyQ's flying in.
He is, but he's entirely alone. I'm not sure the Leviathans realized just how alone BennyQ was in that moment. Panitom ults out. The threat of Gamma being there, potentially being there, likely enough, but BennyQ slows things down. Purple buff did end up getting dropped, so at least the Leviathan's able to build up a bit of XP. In Chernobog mid trailing, speaking of BennyQ, something we started to see a bit more of here as of late. I think there's conversations about optimization of the ultimate and how far you have to travel, and it's in mid, and so the mid can maybe potentially follow a bit easier. But I'll hold that thought as now Zapman being ganked, and he is being shredded. Has the beads, doesn't have them anymore. Dodges out a few autos, but he'll drop to Wowy, and the Valkyries duo lane continues to roll here, a 2-0 start for the Soul.
Yeah, Zap was a little bit out of position there, unfortunately used all of his mana as well. Ronngyu wasn't even close, so there was no option for the Scarab's Blessing to come through. So 2-0 is this Soul now, and this is not unlikely for the Valks to get that early lead. We talked about it already. What are they going to do with it? They have to look to keep trying to push this. A Gold Fury attempt could be possible. You don't have that much DPS online just yet, but with a double ADC comp, 2.3k gold in the lead at the moment, I do still want to see some activity on the left side of the map. I think leaving Aquarius alone on a little island at the moment is going to be just fine. He does have teleport, but an early Gold Fury attempt with double ADC, with this level 9 Chernobog and the Soul that's ahead, certainly could be on the table.
Well, what's brutal, not for the Valkyries, but maybe what limits some of that is, of the 2,000 gold, 1,000 of it is Wowy over Zapman right now. Maybe just shy of 1,000, 800-900 or so. So you're looking at a 2,000 gold lead. About half of it is over on the left side of the map. You'd love it, of course, to be on jungle support, mid, something that can rotate a bit easier. Wowy likely just over here farming up for a little while, so it's up to the Valkyries to force fights where Wowy will be on that side of the map anyway. Another bit of pressure, though, Trelly, from Panitom and Ronngyu onto that purple buff, trying to slow down Wowy as best as they can.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw Kyrmi head towards the back camps there while it's got to be pretty obvious that Panitom's heading towards that purple buff time and time again. You'd think with a lead like this, Kyrmi would rotate towards that purple buff and try and look for some aggression, but BennyQ's getting dashed on.
BennyQ gets abducted. Panitom holds in, but immediately about space. And now it's BennyQ down from his ultimate. Scarab's Blessing through onto one. It gets procced, but Ronngyu sent back by the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Panitom desperately clinging to life as Gamma's got a bit of damage, but not enough to get the kill onto Panitom, and everyone in mid will survive.
Yeah, that was an absolute brawl, and props to Sheento. Just channeling those tremors, making so much CC, a great Scarab's Blessing into what I assumed was going to be just the re-kill, but enough movement there to juke out all of Kyrmi's damage, and Panitom will live to see another day. But BennyQ starts the fight by getting engaged upon, really was not too worried about that. Panitom goes for the charge in, sort of misses, and then just goes, all right, this fight's over. And then it was all the Leviathans sort of just fighting for their lives at that point. So I don't think too much aggression put towards this Chernobog, just such a safe pick. Anytime you're in any sort of danger, you go up into the sky, sort of look down at everyone and say, all right, do I need to go in? Do I need to run away? You get all your cooldowns back in. BennyQ was just fine in that one.
Yeah, it was okay. Been able to farm up pretty safely as well. Sometimes Cabrakan can just totally disrupt the flow of the lane for you. Just steps forward, slams the ground by your minions, and suddenly you're wondering what you can really do. But Sheento has, yes, been able to farm up, but BennyQ has been able to maintain about a 1-level lead. Pyromancer will be here in about 30 seconds or so, likely the first objective we see fought over. So Yark has caught Kyrmi with his ultimate, a stun return onto the King Arthur. As Sovereignty fully completed before the first item for Yark mitigates a bit of the return damage from the Valkyries.
Yeah, there's just nothing to fight over at the moment. I mean, you got 10 more seconds before this Pyromancer spawns in, and that's really the only thing on this side of the map that I could see the Leviathans even looking for, trying to get aggressive. We saw, you know, Kyrmi did try to set up a little bit of an ambush there onto Panitom, but there's just not that much damage. Gamma's going to have a whirlwind and a cloud of dust at that point, so I don't see too much aggression happening there. However, Aquarius is getting the 3-man gank.
He is. The root from Ronngyu good, as well as the body block, but Aquarius scurrying away, just not enough
There it
lockdown.
is.
And now the Valks are going to force the objective where their largest lead on the map is. It's over on left. Gold Fury pulled by the Valkyries as the 2-0 Wowy shreds it down, and the Valks confirm the Gold Fury. But burst damage out of Sheento finds the first kill of the game for the Leviathans, and it's the shutdown onto Wowy, but BennyQ has notched his first. Zapman too far forward gives BennyQ the double kill. One by one, the Leviathans go in. Should be a kill for Panitom, but no, the Scarab's Blessing ends up being blocked. BennyQ sustaining up, and BennyQ lives. Double kill for Kyrmi, double kill for Benny, and the Leviathans are swept.
That's insane that BennyQ lives there. I mean, there wasn't that much damage coming his way, but I thought once the Scarab's Blessing came through, and I looked at Benny's build, and there wasn't that much lifesteal, I was like, okay, he's got to be going down here. But the death toll, the Atlantis was enough to make sure that he's living through there. The Gold Fury goes down, and he's going to be just fine. The Valks have themselves quite the lead at this point. And just off of so much aggression towards an Artio with Breastplate of Valor, there's just not that much damage on line 4 Panitom. You know, Jarcorrr did some DPS, but it's just going to be the base damage of a King Arthur at that point. So there's really no chance that Aquarius ever dies unless his dash is crippled out. And it didn't look like Panitom wanted to use that. And the Valks, they're not done. They're going to grab the Pyromancer for their troubles as well.
Valkyries making every call correctly right now. They fought exactly where we hoped they would, around their lead on the map, which is Wowy. Burn down the Gold Fury. You do lose Wowy, and you're actually at threat of losing Wowy again. I believe Disapparate is down, so should be a kill here, but Wowy sustaining up nicely, and a re-gank from Kyrmi, and Wowy won't die. Ronngyu doesn't have Scarab's Blessing, and the Valks can do no wrong. They're making plays at every turn, and they're off to an 8-1 start with a 6,000 gold lead at 12 minutes.
Wowy saved that Supernova for the most opportune time possible. I mean, he's got the Bancrofts, he's got the Typhon's Fang. There was no form of anti-heal on him. He was getting a little bit low, and I was like, is he going to drop it? Is he going to drop it? He was just waiting, biding his time for Kyrmi to come in and help. Over the wall, the Lord of the Afterlife was all he needed to confirm it. So much damage. Level 14 at the moment is this soul, where Zapman cannot even go up to his tier 1 tower. Stuck underneath the tier 2, that tower will go down. The Valks in a tremendously commanding position. Remember, their first win of the Pro League period was up against the Leviathans, so maybe a bit of that creeping down there next. Leviathans they're going to need to catch up in some farms somehow. I don't think duo lane's the option.
No, I don't think duo lane is a great avenue for it at all. Zapman just finishes his Transcendence, has Odibo as his second item, so that's a bit unconventional, but maybe helps him out with some clear, needs it. Because as you mentioned, 3 levels down. Then 2 levels in support, 2 levels in mid. And Kyrmi has also been playing very, very well. We've seen some Osirises kind of fall flat here as of late, Trelly, in the jungle, specifically into the Assassin matchup on one side, Osiris on the other. And eventually it gets to a point in the game where the Assassin's just so much more consistent at diving, executing the backline. This is, I feel like, what the Osiris has been missing at in the last couple of games of play. The early game pressure, and Kyrmi specifically, this recent play, I think has made it look great.
Oh yeah, he's been getting active just like I wanted him to. I mean, once I saw the early lead from Wowy, I was like, okay, they have to be able to play off this. And the Leviathans were trying to stop it. They were sort of trying to plug the bleeding. They're like, okay, well, we're going to invade every purple buff from Wowy. And this time Sheento said, I don't just want the purple buff, I'm diving this tower. Turns out, full tank Cabrakan, full damage Cabrakan with no sort of tank stats, no Aegis. Does not want to eat the full damage from a level 15 soul, and that's sort of where this is looking at the moment. Trying to fight into Wowy without anti-heal, without a form to immune all of his DPS, probably not the best option. I don't think the Leviathans are going to look towards the duo lane for quite some time. However, Oni Fury's coming up shortly, and that would be massive for the Levi's to try and get some vision around, just to go for a fight after the fact, or trying to stop a little bit of the aggression from the Valks, because they've been so active on these objectives the second they spawn in, whenever they can find some pressure.
And the Valks, if they're going to continue this type of play, is a nice steal from Gamma. Removes even more farm from Zapman and Ronngyu on the purple buff. The Valkyries playing like a team right now that you expect to be on that Gold Fury, on that Oni Fury in 32 seconds when it respawns, because of just the pace of play that they've had up to this point in the game. And a couple of teams have started to really up the speed. BennyQ wanting to do so as well here, and Zapman just so far behind. Another auto or two connects, and BennyQ is on a killing spree. You can't downplay what's happening right here. This is not only the Valkyries just winning the early game, they are dismantling.
They are dominating.
The defending world champions in the Atlantis Leviathans. They are up by 8,000 gold at 15.5 minutes and 8,000 experience. This is dominance from the Valhalla Valkyries.
You know what it is? Coach Shark is in studio, and they're
That's
like,
right.
we gotta.
Now they're intimidated. They
yeah,
gotta
they're
whip
like,
it
oh
into
man,
shape.
Coach is here. We better play our best. They're gonna grab that tier 2 tower.
And they're right.
Just as you highlighted, they're gonna grab that Oni Fury right when it spawns in. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a reset and start looking for that Pyromancer as well. They've been playing like a well-oiled machine, and besides that one kill that Sheento has to his name, I've seen not much answer back from the Leviathans. You know, Panitom tried to gank Aqua once, didn't work out too well. 2 purple buff invades. After that, not too much else. I mean, you're just sitting back and saying, okay, get as much damage as you want, get online as quickly as possible, guys. We got to gear up for, it's about to be Fire Giant fight territory, looking at the level 17 ADC in the mid lane.
And look, this is where the Valks take that next step, because Valks of past, I think people waiting with bated breath. When's it gonna drop? When are the Valks gonna make that big mistake? This is now, if the Valks have grown and improved, they have built up this massive lead. The early game has been perfect. Some of the best early game we've seen from a team this weekend. And so now continuing that trend, Pyromancer spawns. The Valkyries are on it. Fire Giant gets pulled at 17 minutes. This might be the opportunity for the Leviathans to get back into this game, because this Fire Giant is burning quickly. It's dropped by the Valkyries as the chase for Jarcorrr begins. Slow connects from Kyrmi. A slight reset on the Fire Giant by the Valks. But Zap's all the way over on left. Sheento's all the way over in mid. The Leviathans seem to just be calling for a steal attempt, and the steal will come in. Tell me it's not Khepri. I swear to God, if it's Khepri, I'm going to lose my mind. Thank God it's Jarcorrr. If I saw another Khepri Fire Giant steal this year, I was going to lose it. But Jarcorrr steals it away. And now the play on field correct from the Leviathans. They've got Zapman pushing down the duo lane. A big swing here in this game, at least to deny the objective from the Valks.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, the Valks did everything right. I mean, they pressured so well. They got a 10,000 gold lead. They weren't scared when they saw 3 tanks of the Levi's show up. And you got Supernova. That should be the easy confirm tool. I think Wowy waited a little bit too late, and or just between ticks of the ult. I mean, I would have to see a replay to know exactly how that confirm went awry. He did drop the ult, though, and that's what I was wondering, like, is Wowy just going to not ult this? Because that's their best option. With an ADC in mid lane, your mage is your best confirm. Soul, Stellar Burst is sort of two-sided, where it's like a boom boom. The second tick of damage, not the best. You have to drop that ultimate, and even though it got dropped, it still was not enough. And now, I mean, the Leviathans were looking for a miracle, and Jarcorrr has delivered. It's time to start farming up, go to that duo lane, get Zap to level. I mean, he's level 15, so start catching up as quickly as possible.
Do you want the Valkyries to slow down, though? I mean, is
absolutely not.
Fire Giant on the Leviathans enough for you to sit for 3.5 minutes, or would you like to see him force the issue?
No, I want to see the Valks do exactly this. Group up in mid, try and find a kill. I don't think giving up this tier 2 and left is a great plan, but it's all they've got. It looks like they're going for Jark.
Jark will get taken down here. Some delay, but Kyrmi ends up getting the kill anyway. So tier 2 tower goes down on the left against the Valhalla Valkyries, and there will be an exposed Phoenix in mid and left for the Valhalla Valkyries to siege up at some point. So kill plus tier 2 for just tier 2. Valkyries will extend that gold lead back to 10,000. So I think still a good play to not rest on their laurels, because sometimes you'll see teams just totally slam the brakes. Oh, we got Fire Giant stolen, let's just go again on the next one. And that's when you can really start to fall short and let these leads slip away. But nothing on the map to fight over right now. Gold Fury will be up in about a minute or so. Might be the next time we see these two teams meet.
Yeah, it looks like the Valks are just going to let the tier 1 towers go through. Again, they sort of had to let Zap get the tier 2 in left just because of their positioning, and they wanted to take that fight in mid, and they return with the tier 2 in mid as well. But I would say don't let any more of these towers go down if you're the Valks. You have such a gold lead for a reason. That Fire Giant buff should not be enough to scare you away from brawling, and it might be the Leviathans that are looking to get active.
Might be Zapman rooted in place by Kyrmi. Returned a good bit of damage into Kyrmi as well. Trebuchet is up from the Valks. Double root from Gamma, double whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and both of them into Wowy. And Wowy will continue to shred down targets of the Leviathans. No one low enough to continue the initiation from the Valks. And only 50 seconds left on the Fire Giant buff from the Leviathans. Looks like things might delay out. Could be awkward timing, Trelly. Gold Fury up. If that gets delayed enough, the Fire Giant will also have respawned. It's an interesting macro game shot calling time for the Valks. How immediately we go to one side, how immediately do we pull objectives on the other. Important decision-making moments.
Yeah, the Leviathans are definitely going to have to head over towards this gold Fury if they do want to siege a defense, because BennyQ is already on it and Kyrmi's got the oracles. Only Yark and Sheento will be able to walk up in time, if in that. I think BennyQ's crits might be able to confirm this one before anyone shows up, and it will.
Smart.
So the Valhalla Valkyries are going to be able to get that gold Fury for themselves, not give the Leviathans a way to sort of shorten up that gold gap before these right side objectives spawn in, the Pyromancer and the Fire Giant. You can't be making another play like that, though. I mean, you can't let a play like that happen, I should say. The Valks, dropped one FG that early on.
You got a second lease in life, right? I mean,
water under the bridge.
Right. You step up. Actually gained 2,000 gold over the Leviathans during that Fire Giant power play. So it actually, I mean, the map state still got, or the gold state rather, still got better for the Valkyries. But the Leviathans did open up that win condition with the left side Phoenix opened up. So Yark makes the big play, steals away the Fire Giant under a 10,000 gold lead from the Valkyries. Maybe 8,000 at the time, now 10,000. Valks still in commanding position here in game number 1, have run over the Leviathans. Will snag the Pyromancer with 15 seconds left on the FG. If you're gonna back and reset, now's the time, but looks like the Valks have spent up all the gold they care to. And at 403, 303, and 314, the damage dealers of the Valkyries have really been getting it done. But I don't think Gamma can be undersold. 9 assists on 10 total kills for the Valkyries.
Yeah, he's been getting very active as Zap just sort of uses the ult to try and answer some damage back into the Valks. I guess just wanted to stop that siege before it started, but the Fire Giant has spawned in here. This is the target that they're after.
Oh no, is Gamma going to get picked before it even begins? A 10,000 gold lead matters so much less if you lose a team member early, but Gamma lives for the time being. Yark will pick up that kill, but on the backside of the fight, Zapman also being chased down. Jarcorrr overextended on the front, and the Valkyries have answered back. Needed to happen. Can't afford to lose a team member for free when you're 10,000 gold up.
Yeah, and it looks like the Fire Giant will be pulled, and Wowy doesn't have the ultimate, so another steal attempt is certainly possible.
No chance the Leviathans do it again. Valkyries get it low, and Valkyries confirm the objective this time. And the Leviathans and Valks will both immediately separate ways. This is where the map state really needs to further change for the Valks. You get Fire Giant, you have this massive gold lead. Got to be knocking down some birds on this Phoenix siege.
Yeah, I mean, more often than not, when I see the first Fire Giant in a game, I say, yeah, it's time to just break those, towers down, get some gold in your bit. You already have.
Yeah, we've already done that.
Your gold lead is immaculate already. This is the first fire that the Valkyries have been able to confirm for themselves, and you're right. They better be breaking the base. That left side bird needs to drop 100%. I mean, even just a fight into a re-engage, whatever it takes to get that Phoenix down needs to happen, because you need to put yourself in a winning position. The gold is there, the itemization is there. All that's left is to put this map state in your favor, get some fire minions on the map, and with a composition like this, I think the Valks are in the perfect position to do that. Send Kyrmi down mid. He's not losing a 1v1 to anyone. I mean, there's just no way that, Panitom with 3 items essentially is fighting into this Osiris. It's just not going to happen, so send him down mid. You can even send BennyQ if he wants to ult over. That's always a decent play, is to send the Chernobog somewhere far. He can fly in whenever he needs to help the siege. There are tons of ways that the Valks all have at their disposal to try and get this Phoenix down, and instead, it looks like they're all going to back up.
Yeah, they will. BennyQ will be able to ult in if a fight breaks out. He'll push up the minions on the right side of the map. But you're putting your team in an immediate 4 versus 3. Gamma takes a good bit of poke damage from Zapman, whose build has started to come together. Kinsai, Silver Branch, Odibo. What an interesting call. You know, they're going to send BennyQ to put some pressure over on right, but Trelly, are you worried that that slowed down pressure here on left?
Yeah, it definitely has, but it looks like the Valks aren't going to go for any immediate aggression, and that's the only worry if you do find a fight like that. But it looks like Panitom is going to be forced into the ult here shortly, unless Kyrmi just isn't going to dive that one. I thought BennyQ would ult. Now he's going to ult.
BennyQ will. Where does he rotate into? It's into Sheento. Will dash onto the wall and off. Rejoins the rest of his squad. Gamma, where's all this poke damage come from? Is this just Zapman finding the auto? Zap has just taken top damage in the game over from BennyQ. Seems like the Odibo and the chain damage from that has farmed up some good damage. The war of attrition on the left side Phoenix continues, but it's low. Maybe one more push here from the Valkyries is all they need. An abduct onto Aquarius as Gamma still lives on the back of the fight. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, unable to get in range. Used now defensively as Gamma will catch out onto one. Walls from Sheento aren't there, but the Scarab's blessing is it'll get procced. And back goes Sheento to his support. Zapman forward on his own. Kyrmi finds the rampage, and the Valks did break the left Phoenix.
They get that left side bird, get both relics from Zapman, and he falls down, forcing both relics from Sheento as well, but the Scarab's blessing was clutch. And it looks like that will be the end of a long-fought siege there from the Valks. That was extremely awkward. It just seemed like, you know, Kyrmi gets massive damage on a Panitom. That, to me, was the go button for BennyQ to ult in, force that ult out. You could be looking at two birds at that point, but BennyQ goes to Sheento, then just dashes into the wall, looks over towards that Phoenix, and that, for the Leviathans, was just the go button. It seemed like Jarcorrr and Panitom were able to dive to the back. Sheento barely misses the ult to confirm that kill on the Gamma, and, you know, all in all, we got one bird down, and we're looking at a possible another fire giant siege at this point from the Valks, because they might have time to go for one more siege. 20 seconds, though, you're going to lose that fire buff, so it's not going to be the play. They have to back up, send someone over to defend those left side minions. In this case, Jarcorrr is definitely your best option. Still has the teleport available, can still help you fighting for that fire giant. It's still a very early game. EFG not on the table just yet, but you know, the Leviathans have to make their siege pretty much here and now. You're seeing the power spikes come through. The Rang does mass for Sheento. Finally going to be able to stop some of that extra damage he's been taking. Panitom finishes Heartseeker. That's going to be huge for spamming these abilities in the team fight. The Leviathans are the strongest they've been ever since the game started, right about now.
This is such an interesting spot because the gold lead continues to get worse. But to your point, Trelly, a couple important items starting to get picked up from the Leviathans. Might be really the last big fight in the game where the Valks just have massive itemization advantage in the carry rolls over, or the Valks have that advantage over the Leviathans because you're going to get 6 slotted soon here from Panitom, Sheento. At this point, for Benny, Kyrmi, you're buying your additional potions, things like that, the consumables, the power-ups, same with Aquarius. Valks now in an opportunity to further push this advantage. I wonder how confident the Leviathans feel, though. Might feel a bit better because of how long it took to break the left Phoenix just a moment ago. And body language-wise, the Leviathans simply backing away. I'm not sure the Leviathans want to contest this at all.
Yeah, it seemed like they were going to at a point, and then they all just collectively decided, nah, we'll just sit back and defend our base that way. And I think maybe a little bit of the mindset you were going with, where it's just like, we defended that left side Phoenix, 10K down. What's one more fire giant siege, right? If we just win this next one, defend that bird and or stay alive, we'll all get our 6 items. We'll be incredibly strong, and we should be able to fight back. I'm assuming that's the mindset. And the Valks are going to try and push down just that right side tower and immediately channel their backs, spend a little bit of extra gold, hopefully finish up an Emperor's armor there for Gamma. And that's going to be huge because, you know, Ronngyu got that immediately, and the Phoenix damage really starts to ramp up. Whoever is tanking that Phoenix really starts to feel the brunt of it when it doesn't go down immediately. Gamma getting that to neutralize what Ronngyu was doing is going to help him out tons when he's trying to tank up this Phoenix for the next siege. And given the time that it's taken to get here, this might just be a left side Phoenix siege once again once it spawns back in.
Seriously, it might respawn by the time the Valkyries are able to get over to it. You know, the Valks, I think, every ounce of praise needs to be on them for the way that they've played the early, now mid, now later in the game. Realistically, the game could be ending right now if that first fire giant didn't get stolen away by Jarcorrr. The delay of that, pretty impactful. Still slowly rolling in with these minions here. In the meantime, the first nearly 2 minutes of this fire giant buff have dropped off. And So you're limiting your time just a bit on the siege and giving the Leviathans time to set things up. And you're spot on. The left side Phoenix respawns 2 more fire minion waves for the Leviathans to deal with. And Kyrmi's alone. He's now used Lord of the Afterlife. Is he strong enough to avoid death? You wouldn't think so. But that does open up the right side Phoenix to be sieged by the Valhalla Valkyries. Can they do it, though, without one of their strongest players? Jarcorrr initiates onto Wowy, so does Panitom, as Wowy will use the Aegis. Now the charge in from Sheento. The walls go up from the Cabrakan, and the Tremors are out as well. Tanky enough, though, are the Valhalla Valkyries. Double stun on the back line from Aquarius. And all of the Leviathans live for now, but BennyQ is reinitiated.
BennyQ wants to fly in here as this Phoenix seems to be the target as Zapman is throwing some autos out, but that's not going to be the case.
Wow.
And Jarcorrr
TP
could die to these minions.
He could. Looks like Yark will be okay. And he'll save the left side Phoenix. So teleport play simply across the base from Jarcorrr. Does end up saving the bird, but just needs a couple of auto attacks. Far from clean for the Valhalla Valkyries, but still find themselves in a relatively comfortable spot.
Yeah, they are going to go for the mid bird now,
Oh,
even
Panitom.
down, but Panitom has a great wraparound here.
Panitom wants to break this siege, and he's going to jump into the back line to do it. Disapparate from Wowy, worth its weight in gold. And that'll keep the soul alive because the soul has no actives, no beads, no Aegis. Panitom might just be able to do it again. Kyrmi is back and respawning.
Here we go.
Panitom, yeah, he might just send it on through once more. Does have ultimate. Kyrmi waits to join the team. Valks have 1 minute remaining with 4 members with Fire Giant buff and a couple low health Phoenixes. Gotta completely open up the base of the Leviathans here to feel good.
Yeah, now Kyrmi finally has joined the fight with fire minions going down right side, so this should be a pretty clean Phoenix siege unless the Leviathans form some form of defense.
Leviathans have played near perfect Smite from the early game to the mid game. Can they siege up the base? Well, when Gamma does that, yes you can. Triple Whirlwind of Rage and Steel sends a kill to the doorstep of the Valkyries. And when you need a big play, Gamma, he stepped up this time. BennyQ's got the double. And Valkyries fans can breathe easy. The Titan will fall and the Valks will take game 1.
With a massive gold lead like that, you'd expect the Phoenix siege to be a little bit cleaner, but Gamma comes through massive there. So many different wraparounds from Panitom. I was wondering when that fight was finally going to get started, but the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel into the massive follow-up there. Wowy, BennyQ doing so much damage as well. The carries, you know, we've been talking about it throughout this whole set. The carries of the Valks looked insane that game, and we haven't seen them playing that lights out in quite some time.
Look, rewind, if you will, with me to like phase 1. The dual lane, I mean, really the Valkyries were struggling in its entirety, but there was like a stretch of like 6 or 7 games where the dual lane had no kills for the Valks. And we were being told, and the Valks players, they had their faith in one another. Look, we're building something. It's going to take a bit of time for us to get there. The wins never really piled up. The Valks, over their last few sets, over the back half of phase 2, dual lane deserves every ounce of praise in the same amount that they got harshed on a bit in phase 1, because those areas of the map step up huge here in game 1 for the Valkyries, and they're winning conditions now in game 1. Can the Valks repeat? Can they 2-0 the Leviathans here to end today in the SPL? Stick around and find out.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Game number 1 goes to the Valhalla Valkyries in a rather convincing win up against the Atlantis Leviathans. What was almost an early first blood for the Leviathans. Kyrmi's able to kind of run around the map with the speed buff around him, some slows thrown out. He avoids doing that for first blood. Instead, it's over in the dual lane for the Valkyries where they pick up a first blood for their team, and then from that point onward, an ever-spiraling control for the Valkyries leads to an 8, nearly 10,000 gold lead gore, leads to almost a Fire Giant stolen away, then come back and get another Fire Giant. And we're looking at Valkyries taking this one pretty handedly.
Yeah, I think they take it a little quicker if they get that first FG, but that's just a good play from the Leviathans, right? Like, it's one of those things that's it's going to happen sometimes, and unfortunately for them, that happened to them here. Fortunately for them, it didn't really change anything, right? It gave a little bit of pushback, in my mind, from the Valkyries, from the Leviathans, where you could see maybe the opportunities for fights. But, you know, they called it in the cast, and you got to see it in the play. They didn't get to do too much with it. The Valks didn't let off on the pressure. They didn't just wait for that 3 minutes to go by and give the Leviathans a chance to come back in. And so I think they did a fantastic job of just getting aggressive and playing it the way that it needed to, and being able to get the damage out there where it needs to go and things like that. I think that they found a very comfortable early lead and shutting down Zapman. And you know, I think me and you, we were both worried a little bit about the matchup into the Cabrakan. After what we saw Sheento can do on this Cabrakan, and it did nothing. It didn't matter at all. I think the damage numbers from the carries, I was looking at you and I was like, man, it's going to be really hard because like the way they were playing, like you had 3 people who put up an MVP performance. Yeah, there was a really, really good play from Gamma. I mean, just throwing people right into it. I think, look, it's easy to say and look at, you know, some of the slash lines and say like everybody played well or all the carries did well. I think every single member of the Valkyries there, though, just had a pop-off performance and should be very proud of that game. That might have been some of the best Smite we've seen from them yet. And I'm excited because I think there's still room to grow for them. So I'm really wondering where they're going to go with this. And, of course, about Game 2.
100%. The Valkyries really stepping up here. 5 kills each for the 3 carries of the Valks. Kyrmi, BennyQ, and Wowy all putting up big numbers. BennyQ putting up the most damage in the lobby at least, 28k for the Chernobog mid. And I think you're right to bring up maybe the worries that we had about the Cabrakan mid into those 2 matchups can be kind of pushed away, at least for this game out here. The Valhalla Valkyries really making a name for themselves in game number 1, stepping up and finding that game 1 over the Leviathans. And again, this is kind of going back to the last time, or not really the last time they played because that was earlier in the phase, but when they squared off in phase number 1, some of the topic of conversation that you'd seen going around, some of the comments and threads and things like that was, okay, well, the Leviathans were maybe kind of trolling, but, you know, they were throwing, like, Giannis support out there, and the Valkyries were just kind of punishing troll. This wasn't the Leviathans holding back necessarily. This isn't the Leviathans making any kind of weird picks and strats to see, you know, if anything kind of sticks out here. This was just the Valkyries completely outpacing, outfarming, and outplaying the Leviathans in game 1. We'll see if they can run that back in game number 2. Picks and bans ready to go for our 2 teams. Now, I wonder what adjustments the Leviathans make this time around. Last time they banned away Morgan first, taking that one away from BennyQ. That was such a pivotal combo for Benny and Kyrmi to run that Morgan-Ratatoskr combo, but we didn't even see them try and, you know, kind of throw shades over to that for the Valkyries in game 1.
Yeah, I'm really interested what they're going to do. The Morgan, like you said, was something that I think needed, or doesn't, I don't know, needs to be controlled in a match like this. And to the point where, like, with the Leviathans specifically, like, I think they're more likely to play it and maybe have the duo double combo. Whether, I mean, they banned out Cthulhu later on, but, like, we saw it a lot with Lancelot the other day. I feel like that combo is more likely to be played with by them than it is the Valkyries. Not saying that the Valkyries don't have it, but, like, if I was going to put money on, and I'm not going to because I'm not Mifflin, but if I was, I would probably bet the Leviathans would have a higher chance of not only running a comp like that, but finding success with it. It'll be interesting to see how they change things up because I think like the Cupid ban, even the Nemesis ban, like controlling Wowy to an extent and controlling Kyrmi are huge deals. Benny is gonna have a god pool that you're never gonna be able to touch in 5 bans, so you should not try. And so I think just trying to find the pressure points from game 1 or things that I think otherwise would be too problematic to deal with are good bans.
Do you think if both teams used all of their bans to try and ban Benny, do you still think he would be able to find something to pull out no matter what there? Because I mean,
yes.
I think about the depths of Benny's god pool. The top 3 kind of weird ones that come to mind, and I'm excluding the Terra because I just don't want to see the Terra necessarily more. But like Tsukuyomi, Sun Wukong, and Cabrakan, 3 picks that have worked out for him in the past in that mid lane. And then you've got a bunch of the mages. You have some of the weird ones like the Anubis out there. So I think you're right to highlight maybe not worrying about.
Yeah, most of the assassin tab, some of the warrior tab, all of the mage tab,
some of the hunter,
and some of the guardian tab.
God, he really can. Just
he can play.
He wants to be a solo laner so bad, but yet he's in the mid lane, isn't he?
Look, BennyQ as a solo laner in Season 2 would have rocked everyone's world.
He would have gone toe-to-toe with Cyclone in some of those kinds of matchups. But as the bans roll through, Cupid Nemesis Xing out of Leviathans not wanting to give Gamma a chance at a repeat performance with that Xing. Then dodgy Iset Yamoja by the Valkyries. That opens up Chernobog as now a first pick for Leviathan, so take that one away from BennyQ. And then Cabrakan and Osiris. The next 2 ones, which Cabrakan is just something that Gamma specifically on this team has really loved going towards.
I really liked it when Gamma's played it as well because I think it allowed them to play aggressively. And you know, Xing, you lose 2/5 of what your team just was. The Xing, the Chernobog immediately taken away from you. So you get to change things up, and you know that Sheento would probably just go right back to this Cabrakan if they could, even though it didn't maybe have the best performance last game. I think historically what we've seen over the last couple of sets for the Leviathans would be pretty solid. So take that away. You get to strip that and give it over to Gamma, who's really solid with it. If you get Wowy back on, whether it's Soul or if they don't want to do something like that, they don't go
My steed and I are ready for yet
then you
another
just have
adventure.
an aggressive support beside whoever you want it to be. And, you know, with glimpses, granted it didn't win, but glimpses of like, things like the Charybdis maybe coming back in. Barra playing that a couple of times.
For all that they're worth.
Means, in my mind, that Wowy's got quite a few options to go to over there in the dual lane.
For the Leviathans, mostly a full change-up in their roster. They pick the Lancelot one more time for their side, but Fafnir will now be joining the ranks. So this now opens up the question, do the Leviathans think to maybe go towards a double hunter style comp? Because that's typically when we see these Fafnirs come out, is when it's a normal hunter and then a magical hunter, or just 2 hunters in general. Things like a Muzen or Uller kind of pop in there if you want to go with a second one, maybe over towards maybe that mid-roll. And still, Soul, I was going to say Olarun, but that one does get banned away by the Valks, and the Muzen picked up as well. So maybe the Valkyries also sniffing out what the Leviathans want to go with.
Yeah, I think that this is something that should be, I mean, based on that, maybe pretty easy to deal with. It's always difficult, though, when because, like, you see this and, like, okay, we know we can get rid of a Magical Hunter. Olarun's pretty easy. They actually banned out the Soul on the Leviathan, so maybe that makes things even easier for you. But it also, to me, indicates that either A, they don't want to do that, or B, they don't care if they're fizz heavy. And that's usually what we're leaning towards. Either they throw a Guardian into the solo lane, and the Levi's try to match that, which is not uncommon this phase. We've seen quite a few. Or you just bite the bullet. You have 4 physical gods. You give Gamma the easiest sovereignty of his life, and then just hope that you can overpower him.
The Valkyries, after banning not just the Olarun, but the Raven, and then Soul and Artio from the Leviathans, the Muzen has more often gone over towards the mid lane picks, so potentially already locked in BennyQ's God.
12, 21,
Xbalanque in. That one most likely going over to Wowy. So now, potentially holding on. This Cabrakan and Osiris, still technically some flex between the both of them. Either of those gods could go over towards the solo lane for Aquarius. With a Cthulhu now locked in for the Leviathans. Towards me, it really does feel like the Valkyries have 2 great gods on their side to deal with a god like Cthulhu.
Yeah, I would say so. I actually think, like, look, the essence so far, we'll see what the last pick is for Aqua here. Or maybe the Cabrakan ends up being solo and it's the last pick for Gamma. Either way, the essence, in my mind, of what the Valks just played and what they're playing or are about to play is going to be the same, right? You've got 2 people who are really heavy-handed and auto attacks, one that has better abilities, but his auto attacks interwoven into those feel really solid. You got Osiris in the jungle, so that's just straight up the same. And then you've got the Cabrakan, an aggressive support, who might not have the same pullback potential that like a Whirlwind of Rage and Steel can bring from a Xing, but does still have a really good teamfight ultimate that if used properly can set up kills. So I think that the essence and the transfer of skills from the last game to this game are going to be there for the Valks. It's just going to be the question of this one because, again, if you lock in something here for Aqua that's a warrior or anything physical based, then all of a sudden it is going to be leaning a little too heavy on that side. You get a sovereignty and a couple of these other items. And while, things have been added to the game that maybe help you beat through protections a little easier in some of those glyphs, it's not the best for you, so I like the idea of, you know, kind of diversifying things as best you can. But with AMC, Xbalanque, guess what? You're still going to push down towers incredibly well, and with a Cabrakan and an Osiris, you're going to have plenty of setup to have those two follow up on.
But it won't be a warrior, it won't be an assassin, it won't be anything physical in the solo lane for Aquarius, as Chang'e is the final lock-in for the Valhalla Valkyries, something that Aquarius has found success on in the past. And he'll need to find some success this game if the Valkyries want to push this to a 2-0 win over the Leviathans. Kind of grazed over the Zhong just a little bit. And
yeah.
We've been seeing the flexibility of Chernobog go towards mid and go towards the duo lane. We've also seen that Zapman has taken some mages to the duo lane. Do you think that the Zhong is going to Sheento? It feels like it would fit in the same similar level of play that Cabrakan would. You want to be close in. You want to be able to kind of get that big damage out there. But obviously you can't go with a fighter's mass start because he is a mage compared to a guardian. But feels like those Bancroft glyphs would maybe work out pretty well with Zhong, especially that Bancroft's Claw.
I think his sustain is going to be nice for him and probably necessary because, like you said, if it goes in mid lane, then it's going to be playing up against the AMC there, and that becomes a problem because Stinger, like, look, Zhong, the best thing about him, not like self-sustain, things like that, feels really good. But he's a big dude. He's tanky, right? He takes a couple of shots and he can hold them. Stinger stops that. Stinger's going to help eat through him. Granted, I expect it to be used more often for the Cthulhu than the Zhong, but it's still this problem that he's probably going to have to deal with because Cthulhu's on the other side of the map for a little while. He's not going to be rotating in. You've got an easy matchup right there in your lane. You know what you can deal with and you know what you can do. So I think that that's going to be something when slowed by an Osiris, stingered by an AMC, and then the follow-up damage should be enough to get some kills there. And I'm worried that that'll be a point of contention. Luckily, the Leviathans, if they can keep that going for them, are safe there. Do have a point that I think is going to go their way. Cthulhu might not outclear a Chang'e, but is not easily bullied by a Chang'e. I think later on in the game, opposite. Earlier on in the game, Chang'e's damage is probably going to be a little rough and tumble because you're a guardian, your clear is going to be low, you might need some assistance from the jungle. But after a while, you're just going to be tanky, and good luck to a Chang'e trying to kill you off. I mean, CC, stuff like that, maybe with some assistance coming in against Stinger, starts to enter the equation. That all can change, but at least early on, might be a little rough, but later on you'll be the big solo laner we're used to.
Well, we'll see if the Leviathans can get through the early game this time around and maybe put up a nice fight against the Valhalla Valkyries. They are one game away from closing out this set. Can the Valkyries do it? Let's throw it over to Dave and Trelly one more time.
The Valhalla Valkyries put on a show in game number one. Not super close. Throughout 99.9% of the game. Bit of pushback from the Leviathans under their own Phoenixes. 10,000+ gold down. All of that built up, though, by the Valhalla Valkyries in the early game, Trelly. That's where the Valks made their money. But Wowy on the Xbalanque, Gamma on the Cabrakan this time. I think plenty to dissect here from both teams. Maybe start with the mid, where Sheento piloting the Zhong this game. Technically a mage, right? But still a bit more tanky opposed to standard mage picks.
Yeah, he's definitely looking to get active given the fact that he started that blink. J-Mac's right to hide that he can't go that fighter's mask, but still looking for some of that Bancroft's talent with the tier 1 tiny trinket, or just any sort of lifesteal in that regard. But, you know, with the Zhong, with the blink, you're never waiting for the initiate. You are the initiator. You're blinking in, and you're either going in or die trying. So I imagine Sheento does not want to let BennyQ free farm. You know, last game he was able to get a pretty decent XP lead just by nature of having that Hunter mid lane. Still, same sort of style, but this time it's the AMC and not that Chernobog. So I think Sheento just wants to try and bully as much as possible with this Zhong.
Now that's something to look at there. Gamma blinks forward, wants to use the Tremors to clear the wave, gets a couple channels of it off. Immediately stunned out, though, by Ronngyu with the hammer. So throughout this laning phase, something that could happen. The level 2 hit by Wowy and Gamma. Won't be first blood, but nice lane pressure already built up for the Valhalla Valkyries. On the flip side of mid, where BennyQ is going to get ganked here, has beads, will hold the beads, and that is a ironclad constitution that BennyQ's got there, because I am slamming beads out of fear of death, but BennyQ knows his threshold.
Yeah, BennyQ knew the damage numbers at the very least. He's got health pop, multi-pot in the back, so the poke really doesn't matter too much. Getting beats there would have been a huge loss if, of course, it didn't save him. And that time, didn't need to save him, so holding on to that, pretty big deal. Now Kyrmi has joined the fight in mid on this Osiris once again. Whenever you look at that itemization, you see the Mannequin Scepter. That just tells me that I want to see Kyrmi fighting, because no one should be able to beat him as long as he puts himself in the right situations.
Right.
No one should be able to output that much damage. Off the back of your AMC, who's already been aggressed upon, I don't think mid lane's your best option for fight, but there has been a fair bit of brawling already in duo lane, as you highlighted. Gamma just blinking in, using those tremors consistently, making sure that Rongyu's HP is never comfortably above half at this point of the game. So possibly some action towards the duo lane, but it looks like Kyrmi might actually be looking for a blue buff invade, fighting for Totem at the moment. We'll have to see if he goes forward or backward after that.
Unfortunately for Kyrmi, blue buff literally just taken by Jarcorrr, so won't be able to invade it. Could put some pressure. Oh wait, no, just respawn rather. I got it backwards. Just respawn. So yes, Kyrmi and Aquarius will put some pressure over on the soul lane side of the map. Aquarius hoping to sustain and sprint away, but Yark won't let it happen. There's double tethers out though. At least the one was there for the stun, and Kyrmi does reply with a kill of his own. Should still be able to continue this. Panitom's got no mana. Kyrmi's got mannequins, going to be a steal attempt out of Panitom. And it looks like was successful, and Kyrmi will at least get a kill, but it's first blood to the Leviathans.
Yeah, I really thought that Aqua was going to be just fine there, but didn't have the survivability. It just was not enough to get him out of trouble. And some beautiful damage, while Gamma heads into mid to try and get some relics on the Sheento, but only has the blink.
Oh, Sheento desperately trying to get out of the tremors. BennyQ,
You gotta hit those!
just gotta hit some autos. Sheento dodging them all.
The blink?
One more.
The blink?
One more. Sheento gets out of the tremors.
Oh.
BennyQ hits the last auto, and the Valkyries continue their roll. This time, though, over in mid, and Zhong gets punished.
I really thought, I mean, obviously, Sheento should never get out there, but given the juke shoes, given the fact that Gamma just couldn't catch up in time, I thought Sheento was going to be able to blink away. Luckily not the case, and just enough consistent damage to make sure that that's not going to happen. However, you got to look out for the lead in the solo lane. Just the fact that Jarcorrr has this Cthulhu. He's going a damage-oriented build, probably the Pythags piece first item. It's going to be able to get him some great value, and Aquarius is going to have to stay pretty far back. You do have a fair bit of damage once the Warlock sashes online, but Chang'e, not one known for her lane pressure. She's great into team fights. She can clear the wave and heal up minions pretty well, but fighting into a Cthulhu, with this sort of build, I don't think it's going to be the best option, so I do want to see Panitom over on the right side of the map. Look at the itemization. He did go for the Brawlers, so trying to stop some of that healing might mean that he's trying to kill that Chang'e.
Yeah, hopefully helpful in dealing with Aquarius. Word of the Afterlife out from Kyrmi. As well as a tether. Transformation from Ronngyu avoids the stun, and Kyrmi just taking a mountain of damage. The cripple field again makes a no-play zone, and Kyrmi's got to get out the other way, and Kyrmi will survive. That does give the Leviathans a bit more credence over in the Valkyrie side of the jungle. We'll strip away some of the camps and slow Kyrmi down.
Yeah, there will be a blue buff spawning here shortly, but because of the Valks putting so much pressure towards the blue buff last time, it's on a little bit of a different timer. Gamma goes massive there, beautiful wall, forcing out the leap from Panitom a little bit earlier than he would have liked, and Ronngyu does land the dragon stun, but it's not enough, and Kyrmi is able to waltz out with a sliver of HP.
No, that's Aquarius is going to be doing the waltzing.
What did I? Oh, because my walls. There we go. You're on point today, Dave. I love that.
And look, it's been. Oh my God, this is only day 2. I was about to say it's been a long weekend. I'm so used to our 3 set days being on Sunday.
It's that meme, the one with the sailor, and he's like, man, it's been a long week, and it's like, Captain, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
So that's you. You're really just
poor Slaney and the Scarabs. Slaney put out that meme, I think, on his own Twitter account when Scream had left the squad. Been such a long week already. Captain, it's the middle of the year.
Well, I think the meme's Captain, it's Wednesday, but for us, because we start on Friday, Captain is Friday.
Right. This is our Thursday.
Yeah. And it's only going to get better.
It's only uphill from here.
Because there's a lot more competitive Smite sets.
That's right. Look, when the phase starts to come to a close, there's only a few games left. That's when, standings can really change around, but also the teams who are confirmed, maybe like the Valkyries, can start to have some fun and get things going. Beads off of Zapman. Valkyries will play aggressive over on the duo lane for the first time this individual game, but Zapman will live through it this time, despite the lights going out and the walls going up from Wowy and Gamma, and we are dead even outside of a slight experience lead. This could change that though. Panitom's got ult. He'll send it towards Gamma, rooted in place. And the damage is in from Zapman for a clean kill for the Levi's.
Yeah, that's just staying a little bit too long up against the Chernobog. Kyrmi, I don't think, has any sort of avenue to try and get in here as long as Ronngyu is in that dragon stance, so the regank opportunity is certainly not there. Wowy was trying to peel for his support with just damage and auto attacks, throwing out the poison darts and just sort of wailing away with the branching bullets. It just was not enough, and that will be a great return kill. So Panitom has been getting active. He's got 2 assists now. Hasn't really confirmed a kill for himself, but giving it to the squad, making sure that his team gets to flourish in that regard. And, you know, Zap gets very low there, force out the beads, but that's what this Chernobog brings. If you don't kill him and you let him back, he can come back in, slow the whole team, and his cooldowns will always be ready. So great answer there to losing his beads. And now Zap should be a little bit safer, given that he's got some room in that lane.
And look, it will take away one of the big pieces of the Valhalla Valkyries win in game 1. Wowy not so far ahead that the Valks can just cleanly pull a Gold Fury out of nowhere. In fact, a little bit behind. We'll need some time to scale up. Ahead in the Transcendent stacks for the time being, but experience-wise, Zapman feeling comfortable with where he's at in that lane. I think ultimately I still have some questions for the Chang'e solo, because obviously we've only ever really seen it in Aquarius' hands here as of late. Looks like Warlock staff first. Maybe a bit of tankiness down the stretch. Does this scream CC bot to you? I'll let you think of your answer while Zapman will get chased out by Kyrmi with a blink over the wall and a stun around the corner. Kyrmi snags the kill.
Oh, and he gave him a little chuckle, making sure to put Zap in his place. Great gank there. And, you know, holding on to that ultimate probably just came up, but Zap was not able to channel it, so it is off cooldown. Would be able to fly back to lane if he needs to try and finish up stacking that Transcendence. But yeah, I do think that building and itemizing the way that Aquarius has, he's not going for just CC bot. He's trying to do some damage to these, you know, these ADCs. The Chernobog is going to take a full bit. Zhong isn't going to, you know, he's not going to love getting hit by the Waxing Moon, but I don't think late game it's going to be setting up too much if Sheento does go for a hybrid style of build. Either way, if you're hitting a massive just like 2-3 man stun with the Waxing Moon, you're going to be having a good time.
Yeah, of course, but can you get there is the question. Aquarius desperately clinging to life. There will be chase down from the Leviathans. Aquarius has already used his ultimate, but there is sustain in the kit as well. Kyrmi jumps in, but why? Because the rest of the Valkyries are here as well. It's only Wowy not participating in the right side fight. But Zap ult's over after it's all done. Pyromancer's up in 30 seconds, otherwise I might think that's why Zap is here, but instead, Wowy is just going to get some free farm on the left side of the map.
Yeah, in my mind, Sheento, Ronngyu, and Zap could have pulled Gold Fury. Wowy could have, you know, stopped it. So I guess the call there, because it looked like Sheento wanted to blink in and go for the ult, and it looks like he finally will get to blink in, but unless, oh, that's a good slow, that might be enough, and it's not. So it looks like Wowy will be able to dash out of there with the Rising Jaguar. The red buff won't be stolen, but at least got Sheento's blink down. Either way, I thought maybe the Gold Fury would have been the answer back because of how much pressure was on that right side of the map.
Yep.
But because Zap could fly in, maybe the call was, Sheento, blink in, I got you, we're going in. And then Sheento realized, hey, they're all on the tower, I've got Bancrofts, like, I'm not that tanky, I'm not diving this, so Zap will lose a little bit of farm, but cleared the wave in right, so he's not going to be too far behind. It looks like the Valks will be up about 1.5k gold in the lead.
Yeah, just been more impactful in the kills for the Valkyries. The Leviathans had the kill lead for a minute, but the gold lead never really built up. Now the Valkyries, and a lot of that trickles over to Wowy, who remember was a bit behind, to Zapman, who got an early kill, but left alone in lane for a wave or two, steals away some back farm from the Leviathans. Good look for the Valkyries, yet again, have stabilized a loss in the early game and started to take it to the Atlantis Leviathans. With the Gold Fury spawning, and the Pyromancer up as well, that's when the next big question starts to get asked. Because again, the Valks don't have that massive lead in the duo lane this time to freely just pull that objective and almost guaranteed win a fight.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be free given there's so many variables up on the map at the moment. Aquarius ticks over to level 12, so I'm curious to see if he picks up something survivable like a beads. Sheento's taking a lot of damage, but I don't think they have enough to finish this kill.
Oh, Sheento's got a stun on the back as well. Gamma Sends a stun towards Zapman. Gotta be a kill on the Gamma, and it is for Zap. As Zap will make his way behind the tier 1 tower. BennyQ uses the Aegis, and it's perfectly timed. And some sustain from Aquarius, who still has Waxing Moon. These teams just exchanging punches right now. 1 for 1, 1 for none has been the big one so far. Now Gamma dies for the second time this game. Gives the Leviathans a bit of an edge on the map.
Yeah, you just don't have enough anti-heal to go for a kill on a Sheento. The Bancrofts and the heal from Zhong alone is enough for him to sustain through that, but I guess you're looking at a level 13 AMC. As long as BennyQ hits everything, the mindset is we can blow up this Zhong. It just was not the case, and the return gank was a little bit too much. And that's the other thing about the Leviathan's composition. Of course, Jarcorrr is great to just be there, just have his presence known, but Zap can fly in at any moment, and you always have to watch out for that. And it looks like the Valks did lose that fight in mid, but they're going to pull this Pyro.
And the Leviathans are not in a position to immediately pull the Gold Fury. So it's steal attempt from Yark, and it won't go through. The Valkyries cleanly grab the Pyromancer. No objective pull on the other side of the map on the Gold Fury. And so that'll effectively wipe out that individual kill onto Gamma with the Pyromancer secure by the Valks. The experience almost doubling up what the gold lead is for the Valkyries here as well. A lot of it in mid, support, even solo lane with a bit of a lead for Aquarius. Bit of gesturing towards the Gold Fury, but I don't think either team comfortable enough with that just yet. So a good stabilization from the Valks grabbing that Pyro.
Yeah, and it looks like a few buffs were being looked at there. Panitom was able to steal away the red, which is going to hurt BennyQ's clear a little. And it seemed like Zap was walking over towards that purple buff, but Wowy, having a good enough sense of direction on that wave, is going to be able to clear that just fine. Gamma, Kyrmi, Benny, and Wowy all around this Gold Fury, more so looking to wrap around, and they might be able to find a gank here.
Be a 4 versus 4. Teleport ready for Jarcorrr, so Cthulhu could be in this fight a bit faster, but Ronngyu is deleted by the damage from BennyQ. A stun out on the backline from Sheento. This is where Zhong can make some waves, but Sheento's not given the opportunity. The Valkyries are doing it again! The Leviathans lose 4. Wow, he picks up a triple, and what a couple games the Valkyries ADC has had. A 3-0 start to game 2.
What a massive rotation there from all of the Valhalla Valkyries. Again, Aquarius doesn't have teleport. I was wondering, when's he going to be able to get active in these fights? He rotates in. Wow, he gets credit, the triple kill going towards the ADC. And that was all off of aggression from the Leviathans. Ronngyu jumps in. In his head, he probably thinks the rest of the Levi's are going to fight. And he's jumping in, gets stingered immediately by BennyQ and just absolutely deleted. And the rest of the team is able to win that fight pretty handedly. So the Pyromancer going the way of the Valks. Immediately the fight after the fact. A tier 1 tower in left. The Gold Fury, so much climbing in their favor. And it's starting to look extremely similar to the way that game number 1 went. Just a massive lead in favor for the Valks going into this portion of the game. We saw a very early Fire Giant attempt by the Valks last time. That was stolen away by Jarcorrr. So if the confirmation from the Valks is on point, which it definitely could be, we could be looking for an even quicker Fire Giant pull.
Though, all right, wondering if Panitom and Ronngyu wanted the purple buff or the dive, and purple buff is the answer. Man, the Valks now, all right, so it happens a little bit later on in this game. But again, it's Wowy and Gamma that have been surprising me here this game. BennyQ's put together a very nice game. Kyrmi has been playing lights out as well. 7 out of 8 affected kills for both Kyrmi and Gamma. But again, it's the duo lane for the Valkyries that has stepped up over the last few matchups that continues to surprise me. And I've loved the growth that I've seen from this squad. The team fighting looks great. It's outclassed the Leviathans now in back-to-back games. Not a big enough gold lead to call it curtains yet, but start to close in on 5,000-6,000. Valkyries got to be feeling confident. These next few moments, though, sometimes where the Valkyries have had trouble, Charlie, when there's not really much realistically to fight over on the map. Pyro down, Fury down, only the Fire Giant. I don't think the Valk's pulling it at 15 minutes. This is where you got to be cautious to not overextend, maybe find a pick or two, but you can't give too much back. You're
absolutely right. This is the point of the game where there is nothing to do, where it seems like the Valks are okay with just sitting by the wayside. I don't have a problem with that either. Waiting for the next spawn of Pyro and then Gold and then possibly a Fire Giant is certainly a smart play. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're going to be up against Zapman, who knows how to farm this map, and he knows how to get ahead. Wowy, as you can see, is booking it on foot all the way over here. Panitom forced in and blocked out.
What a play by Gamma to block out Panitom. Another Lancelot face plant today. We got one earlier, but now there's a fight back from the Leviathan. Sheento's gotten a kill onto BennyQ. A big Cthulhu can make all the difference in the world. You really need Wowy to go big with the kin size here. Shred down those health bars because Sheento's got a double. The Valkyries, the massive gold lead, haven't been able to handily win the fight. Ends up being a 2 for 2. Potentially more if Wowy can extend forward into the front line. Ronngyu melted down, and Wowy's got a double, but Sheento, he'll do you one better. He'll pick up a triple.
Sheento going absolutely massive as well. What is this fight where Aquarius is going to have to run away here? Kyrmi hit a massive Lord of the Afterlife, where I think the Leviathans would have won that fight just handedly. You know, Wowy loses the 5-0 shutdown, which is huge. Now we're seeing this level 16 Zhong, who only has 2 items, able to confirm so much damage there because of the Bancroft's Claw helping him out a ton as well. You know, there isn't too much anti-heal. It's really just Kyrmi with the Toxic Blade, Aquarius if he hits a heal, and that Lord of the Afterlife. So that's really starting to pay dividends for the Leviathans. We were talking about when there's really nothing to fight over, and I was just about to say, you know, Wowy's booking it on foot. He has to walk the whole way here, but Zap can beat him to the punch if he channels that ultimate, and that's what he does. Panitom gets caught out. It looks like it's just going to be an easily won fight for the Valks, but you always got to watch out for the Blink Zhong in a situation like this, and it looks like because of that shutdown gold, Sheento was able to just pick up a full sovereignty, and that's going to help him out a ton in these coming fights when BennyQ's finding those stingers consistently onto the Zhong. You don't have an Aegis because of the way you built. You have Blink and Beads, so sovereignty, a little bit of survivability, that's going to go a long way for the Levi's.
The question now ends up being, is this the Fire Giant steal from game 1 moment, or is it more effective? The Valkyries still have this gold lead, and so you're hoping, if you're the Valks, that it's just a bump in the road, but you realize you're still strong at this point in the game, and the Valks do end up grabbing themselves the Pyromancer, which means about 30 seconds until the Fury respawns. Zapman is effectively, and this is to your point, Trelly, closed up the gap that Wowy had built up. It was about a 2-level lead for Wowy, but in the time that Wowy spent dead, Zapman gained a couple of levels, so the Chernobog, not only rotationally, but experience-wise, been able to keep pace with Wowy. Wonder if the Leviathan's feeling a bit more confident, emboldened by that previous fight, to maybe get the pot stirring again here around the Fury.
Certainly could be, as it looks like a fight's already breaking out.
And it's Panitom who's initiated on, but BennyQ the first to die. Panitom will fall in reply if Gamma can deal the last bit of damage, and he will. Aquarius over in mid. Has a low health Sheento. You hope you can finish off this kill, and Aquarius does, but look at the Valhalla Valkyries. Their health bar's melting down. Aquarius not in range to heal up his teammates, as Zapman desperately trying to escape. Wowy all this time has melted down the health bar of Jarcorrr. This is the fight the Valkyries want to answer back. They'll get a 3-for-1 at least.
Ronngyu is going to have to transform back, but not enough DPS. Wowy stayed back because that Primal Fury has spawned in. Kyrmi able to run in at full HP as well, and no one in the Levi's is going to be able to defend this one. So another great fight started by the Leviathans that looked clean. Zapman flies in, but a good rotation from Aqua in the back line was able to pretty much completely nullify the ADC damage. Sheento got a ton off as well, but once again, the Valks just go massive. The re-engage from these fights has been huge. Wowy lives this time, which is also massive because Jarcorrr goes to the backline, expects to be this menace with the Cthulhu, but the kin size was picked up, and this Xbalanque is getting his money's worth with that item. You're shredding through so much HP. Even though the Yark has the breastplate, the Emperor's armor, just the Cthulhu bulk that comes naturally. It's not enough for the 6-in-1 Xbalanque, almost level 20 at this point, for not only Wowy, but Aquarius as well, who, despite falling early, has been able to stay extremely far ahead because of the weight of his team, getting the Pyromancer all the time. They're on this side of the map a fair bit of this time in this whole game, so Aqua's been able to farm up just as well. And now, you know, to your point, I don't think that's going to be the time where the Levi's are able to fight back anymore. Look at the gold lead, 7,000 in favor.
Yep.
You got one more attempt at this Fire Giant to really close the bleeding before it starts to get a little bit out of hand.
Right, you're almost in the territory of if the Valkyries get the Fire Giant cleanly, look at all of the towers on the map. Think about the gold lead that's been built up just on kills and farm. No towers, no non-respawning objectives. You're almost in the territory for the Leviathans if the Fire Giant drops to the Valks cleanly and they're able to siege up very effectively, knock down all of these towers. The game's simply just not turning around for you. The Leviathans then have to make the decision, do we want to fight with everyone? Do we want to try to fight the Fire Giant, avoid that type of scenario? We'll see. Jarcorrr picks up the Emperor's armor, hoping that'll help out under some sieges, but this is, remember what the Leviathans did last time. Just sent Zap on a push with the Chernobog, waited for the Fire Giant to get pulled, hoped for a steal, and it did delay the game. Looks like the same playbook for the Leviathans.
Yeah, last time Sheento was also split pushing, and it looked like the Valks were going to chase a fight for a bit, then they went back to the objective, then Jarcorrr stole. Zapman still is not going to be flying in here, as it looks like the Valks aren't ready to go for that play. They would love a pick. They would love to stop some of the damage, but at the moment, they've done absolutely nothing, and Zap's going to get tier 2 and left for free.
Is what a Chernobog brings, because yeah, we're saying you got to do something if you're the Valkyries, but Zap can join the fight. Fire Giant to the Valks, won't get stolen this time. As Ronngyu transforms, Zapman joins from the left side of the map, and Wowy immediately jumped on as Panitom will pick up the kill onto the strongest member of the Valkyries. BennyQ still alive and still swinging some damage, but it's a 4 versus 3 in the Fire Giant pit. Aquarius has some sustain, can keep his team on the map, and that's exactly what he's doing. BennyQ with the triple kill. The Valkyries grab the Fire Giant, but Zapman immediately shuts down Benny. Far from clean, a 3 versus 3, but Valks get fire.
It's going to be a 2 versus 2 at this point with Aquarius and Gamma holding fire. If you're keeping track at home, that's a worthwhile trade for the Levi's. As long as the Valks don't get anything done, the tier 2 and left going your way. Zapman's also looking for this tier 1 in mid and might even try and put some more damage the way of Gamma, just getting some more gold in their pocket. You know, it was a pretty massive kill, and obviously BennyQ gets a fair bit of gold in the process, but your siege is essentially done. I don't think you're grouping up as 5 pushing with only the tanks having this Fire Giant buff, and that gives the Levi's more time to sit down, get some more gold in their pocket, upgrade those builds. I mean, that whole fight where Sheento is able to pop off once again is off of 2 damage items, finishes the Obsidian Shard now, should be able to upgrade that Sands of Time into the Pendulum or the alternate timeline if that's what Sheento wants to do, some more survivability. It's just looking worse and worse as the game continues on. That doesn't mean that the Valks can't just continue this onslaught. I think, unfortunately for Wowy, gets poked down sort of before that fight even starts. He, committed totally towards that Fire Giant, and then Panitom was able to pick him. And when you lose your ADC that early on, the rest of the fight doesn't look as good as it could.
Still an opportunity for the Valkyries. Yeah, I mean, you're probably not walking towards the Phoenixes super comfortably right now, but again, still lots of towers on the map. If you can send Aquarius and Gamma a bit further forward, you still can have an opportunity where gold and experience will build up. Experience gap has started to close up a little bit because the necessary team members of the Valks have reached level 20. I'm waiting to see that gold take over. I think the Valks, yeah, they've lost about 2,000–3,000 gold since they confirmed the Fire Giant. Yark teleports to mid. Emperor's armor, yet again, should help out on the siege defense. I wondered if Zap was going to stick around one more wave, deal some damage, but I think smartly backing off. And the Valkyries, you're right, Trelly, are effectively stalled out. Gold Fury in just a moment could spark a fight.
Yeah, they definitely could look to get active, but I think the Valks are still feeling confident at the Gold Fury and the Pyromancer, but going underneath the Phoenix with the Emperor's armor, even the tier 2 tower, isn't going to be the greatest option. So I think smart play.
You don't even think tier 2?
I mean, they looked at it for a second, but then Jarcorrr TP'd and they're like, all right, we're not feeling confident anymore. So they backed up. They want to get the Gold Fury. I'm not saying that they should be afraid of the tier 2. That just seems to be the smart play that they're going for here. They're in position to get some massive swings of gold, and they're in the lead at the moment. They don't have Fire Giant on any carries. It's just on Aqua and Gamma, and that should be running out here shortly in about 50 seconds. So I think in the Valks had one more clean Fire Giant fight, and they can wrap up this game, but throwing it away for a tier 2 tower, not going to be the call.
Well, hopefully you don't throw it away over a Gold Fury either. Will get pulled and taken by the Valhalla Valkyries. Frenzy now used in the Leviathans, the team forcing the issue, and why wouldn't you when Sheento is playing the way that Sheento is? A double kill at the start of the fight, but Wowy is able to survive. That's the ace up the sleeve of the Valkyries. This is Xbalanque, but a triple kill from Sheento fixes that right up. Could be a quad around the corner if his team is feeling nice, and the Zhong striking pay dirt, hit him with 4. Leviathans are turning it around.
And Gamma, the only one left. Sheeto's hungry for the Penta. Try and chase this one down, but look at his HP, he's gonna die.
Oh, Gamma blinks through, and Overzealous from the Leviathans mid will at least get 4 kills. And Gamma will get his second of the game to keep the pentakill at bay. Leviathans just will not give up. Still a big, big gold lead for the Valks. but the W key from the Leviathans has just, I think, caught the Valkyries off guard time and time again.
Yeah, I really hated that play. When I saw the Frenzy get popped and the Cabrakan ult onto Jarcorrr, I'm just, what, you're gonna put 5 like just damage dealers onto the Cthulhu and what, ignore the Sheento, ignore the rest of the damage dealers of the Leviathans? It's just, you're a little bit too late into the game to put all of your damage into a Cthulhu when you have Blink on the opposition, right? Because they can just blink past your damage dealers, get so much damage off, and that's exactly what you'd expect to happen in a situation like that. So I think the Valks have made a bit of corrections here. BennyQ picks up a Wing Blade. That's going to help him be able to zoom out of trouble. He's been getting slowed consistently by Panitom, by Ronngyu, by Sheento. So if you are able to just zoom out of trouble and can just continuously spam your abilities, that's going to help your fight out a ton. And the Valks are pulling this on respawn.
Frenzy up now, but Gamma not with the rest of his team. It's melting quickly. Who gets it? Valkyries do. What's the call, though? Is it disengage, or is it to burn down Jarcorrr? Stinger is on the Cthulhu, and they've gotten a lot of damage. I think the Valkyries underestimated how much damage they may have been able to do to Jarcorrr, but Kyrmi now hoping for a kill onto the Cthulhu, who's dropped back down out of his ultimate. There are no walls from Gamma, but there is a jump in from Kyrmi that slowed Ronngyu and rooted him in place. The Valkyries can surge in behind their Fire Giant secure and seal the deal here on the game as Wowy trades out with Zapman. 3 down from the Leviathans, 4 around the corner. BennyQ's got a double, and those death timers are long.
Okay, so last fight I said, you know what, don't put all of your damage into a Cthulhu, but if the rest of the Leviathans have let Jarcorrr go, sure, you can put a ton of damage into the Cthulhu. He's able to live, but you know what, the Valks found a bunch of damage elsewhere. They killed everyone but Jarcorrr.
There are a couple towers still left on the map. Jarcorrr is big, he is tanky, and so is the Titan. But look at the death timers, they're too long. The Valhalla Valkyries have done it. They will cleanly 2-0 the Leviathans, and the Valks in great form heading to Masters.
Lightning strikes twice. That's 2 times the Valks have taken down the Leviathans.
What in the world?
And just with extremely clean play.
I'm just, so much has surprised me, pleasantly surprised me, for the Valkyries in the last few sets. 2 wins sandwiched by a loss, but even in the loss had some leads, but you could tell, all right, there are these moments where the Valkyries fumbled their lead away. This is like a what have you done with the Valkyries style of game. And because Wowy puts on probably the best set he's had this year. Gamma looks lights out on the Cabrakan here in game 2. Surprising in the best way possible from the Valkyries. And think about it, this is their last set of the phase, Trelly. This is the last Valkyries we see heading to Masters. Big momentum boost for the underdogs in the SPL.
Yeah, I would say they definitely have that swagger about them now, or they should. Given the play style that they've went for. They looked lights out, as we've highlighted, and I'm just gonna say it. It's cause Sharks this year. Coach showed up, and they're like, we gotta bring our A game.
Yeah, you gotta whip it into shape, and that's exactly what the Valkyries do. 2-0 over the Atlantis Leviathans to end their phase. That's it for Trelly and I. Back to the desk to break this one down.
That's right, a 2-0 for the Valhalla Valkyries over the Atlantis Leviathans. It happened back in phase number 1 where the Valks found a win over the Levis, and everybody was kind of wondering what was happening here. You know, what's going on with the Leviathans? Dropping to the Valkyries, a team unexpected. Now we fast forward to the last week of phase 2, week number 8, and we're now scratching our heads again going, where has this Valkyries been the entire phase? Where has this level of play been?
This Valkyries, I don't think happens unless you get some of the others, right? Like, you have to go through that burner. I think, like, again, it ends up creating a big hunger for them. And watching these guys, again, the improvements week in, week out, the way that they've grown over this. And, again, like, using leadership, you know, Wowy, Aquarius, having that history, things like that. And you look at, like, some of these guys and the way they've been playing. I mean, this was phenomenal. If we get, like you said, this level of Valks play for the rest of the year, there's a whole new contender down at the bottom. Like, all of a sudden, it gets really murky in the middle of the standings. And this is what I meant earlier today when I said that the standings, I don't think, are indicative or a really good sign of where these teams really are. Because I think this Valks roster is very sneakily catching up to a lot of these other SPL teams. And I think that a lot of this one, look, you can give a lot of credit to Gamma. walls like that were just phenomenal. I think there were a lot of moments, I mean, almost like tagging out between Wowy and BennyQ, where sometimes if Wowy, like maybe they focused him down early in the fight, cool, Benny would step up and get a triple. Or, oh no, Benny died early on, cool. Wowy steps in and has one of the best games I think we've gotten to see out of him in years. So I think this was really just a fun set to watch for him, and I think this game, again, a lot of the same essence from what they had in Game 1. Maybe not quite as controlling, but that was more because of a good fight back from the Leviathans and not really anything from the Valkyries. I think they played this well, and I think that, honestly, I can't wait to watch this one again. I kind of want to go back and rewatch the set. It was just enjoyable to see.
Well, good news. You can go back and rewatch the set in just a couple of days when it goes up on our YouTube channel, SMITE VOD. So if you missed the set, you somehow are just now tuning in to the end of it, go back and watch that when that VOD does go back up over onto our YouTube channel, or you can just rewatch the VOD right here on our Twitch channel as well. A 7-4 for Benny, an 8-3 game out of Wowy. Kyrmi 4-3 and 14 for himself. Impressive. I think that is the lowest level of way that I can say of how good the Valkyries played in this game. A 10K gold lead in game number 1 that slowly bled out to being a win. Similar level of performance. It took them a little bit longer to get there this time around. It wasn't as dominant of an early game.
Yeah.
But this level of play out of the Valkyries has not been seen as of yet. And if we can expect to see this same level of play to them as we move into Masters, this could be a very, very fun Masters week coming up. And we've got the ADC himself, Wowy, standing by for our post-game interview. Wow, congrats on the 2-0 win over the Leviathans. Third time you've played these guys, and now 2 times that you've beat the Leviathans, at least in regular season play. I mean, how does it feel to get a big win like this over these guys?
It feels pretty good. It's kind of all of our improvements kind of collecting right now, just in time for Masters 2. So yeah, it feels really nice. We're kind of figuring stuff out right now. So. Yeah.
And how does it feel having Sharks in the studio with you? I know, obviously, you guys still get to talk with them on comms whenever you guys are doing your stuff, going into games and whatnot, but, I mean, does it kind of change up a little bit of the feel, at least in studio, having him there with you guys?
Yeah, he's an integral part of our team. Him not being here a lot of the time is just a hindrance. You know, we're like a 6-man squad, so it feels really good to have him here.
And kind of tell me about like just the team feel as a whole. You know, you guys got 2 wins this phase, obviously double up what you got in phase number 1. Found 1 up against the Oni Warriors early on this phase, and now you get 1 against the Leviathans. I mean, just how's the team overall feeling now moving into Masters?
A lot more confident. I think everyone is hitting like high notes and stuff like that. Everyone's calming more. It's just pure confidence for us. Yeah, it feels really good.
You guys looking forward to going into the Masters as well. Congrats on your 2-0 win over the Leviathans. I'll let you back with the team to celebrate. Cool. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Feeling confident across the board, and I think that's always the big thing, especially when you're a team who's been sitting at the bottom for as long as the Valkyries had. Even in phase 1, even with the win that they were able to find, never really bumped up the standings. I made an okay little run in Masters, you know, made it into, you know, that top 8 continuing onward, which is kind of where the expected are with a lot of the SPL teams. Now, if we're going to see a level of play like this out of the Valkyries as we get ready to move into Masters next time, this could be going beyond just top 8 for this team. We could be looking at top 6, top 5, potentially even through. But that's all of the sets that we have today. Let's take a look back at the schedule and see what you guys have missed on our triple header Saturday and what you can look forward to on our triple header Sunday. 2-0s all the way across the board. Jade Dragons and Titans on our first day. Dragons, Kings, and the Valkyries today all find 2-0s. And then tomorrow, another day of triple headers. Tartarus Titans and Jade Dragons kick off our Sunday morning. Oni Warriors and Camelot Kings. And then the Solar Scarabs and Atlantis Leviathans one more time to close out these 6 teams' last games of play in phase number 2. And then we can start moving on and looking ahead towards Masters, because that's going to be starting up in just, what, 4 days from now, I think, if I'm including today. We are half a week away from going to our phase 2 major tournament, and a big win like this for the Valkyries, as you heard from Wowy, massive confidence boost moving in. Sure, for the Valkyries, it doesn't really adjust the standings any, but now the Leviathans are tied with the Oni Warriors down at that 6 and 7, and both of those teams looking for a win. It's going to be a tough one for the Oni Warriors as they're going up against the Camelot Kings mentioned earlier. Leviathans may have a little bit better of a chance to kind of bump themselves up going against the Solar Scarabs, who have been struggling with their roster change as of now. But it's still a very contentious point now, especially knowing that the Valkyries are capable of putting on that level of performance.
Yeah, I think actually what we'll see, because it's the last set tomorrow, Scarabs and Leviathans, that'll be a very good eye-opener for where the power levels are, right? All of a sudden, If the Scarabs are maybe making the Leviathans struggle a little bit more often, then maybe you're starting to, see. I'm curious how that one's going to go, because I think it's going to showcase, because for them, it's so weird to talk about the Leviathans being in the bottom 3, but it's them plus the Valks plus the Scarabs. And if those are what you're looking at going into Masters, all of a sudden, for anyone out there, like your content creators, Hazer, I'm looking at you, anyone who's making like tier lists of the teams going into an event like the Summer Masters, that one's going to be important, I think, for trying to arrange where these bottom teams go.
A lot of important sets to still finish out tomorrow, so make sure that you are tuning in 11 a.m. right back here for the final day of phase number 2. On behalf of myself, Gore, Casters Production, everyone behind the scenes, thanks for watching, and we'll see you one more time tomorrow to close out the phase.